Tonight, a seismic shift is underway just across our northern border. Canada, long America's closest economic partner, is signaling the end of its unwavering reliance on the United States. Ottawa is now making a calculated, strategic pivot away from the U.S. economic orbit. This isn't about a single dispute. It's a response to a world where old alliances and predictable trade patterns are fading. Canadian leaders are preparing citizens for a future that's less certain but more self-determined. As a G7 nation, Canada's actions are being watched closely by allies and rivals alike. This realignment could become a blueprint for other nations caught between superpowers. The familiar rhetoric of unbreakable bonds is giving way to a sober focus on national interest. Canadian leaders are clear. Their responsibility is to build an economy resilient enough for a turbulent global landscape. The great uncoupling has begun, and its consequences will echo for decades. To grasp the magnitude of this shift, we must understand the depth of the U.S.-Canada economic partnership. For over a century, the two nations have been deeply intertwined, creating the world's largest trading relationship. Landmark agreements like the Auto Pact, the Canada-US Free Trade Agreement, and NAFTA wove their economies together. Canadian businesses thrived on access to the vast U.S. market, fueling growth and prosperity. For generations, this dependency was seen as a strategic advantage. But now, that very reliance is a critical liability. The rise of American protectionism and America First policies has strained the once unbreakable bond. Tariffs, trade disputes, and constant renegotiations have eroded trust. Canadian policymakers now face an uncomfortable reality. The partner they counted on is no longer predictable. The old certainties are gone, and so is the rationale for such profound economic reliance. Canada must now rethink its future. The foundation of trust has eroded. The era of betting everything on America is over. The first tremors of this economic shift came from Canada's top financial authorities. The governor of the Bank of Canada warned of slower income growth and a potential decline in living standards. This wasn't a temporary downturn. It was a structural warning. Prime Minister Trudeau echoed the message. Global shifts are permanent, and Canada is vulnerable. The era of easy growth, fueled by U.S. access and a stable world order, is ending. The government is preparing Canadians for tough choices and a new economic reality. The promise of ever-increasing prosperity is now in question. Canada faces the challenge of fundamentally rebuilding its economic model. Beyond headlines about inflation, Canada's real challenge is stagnant productivity. Productivity, economic output per hour, is the engine of rising living standards. For years, Canada has lagged behind the U.S. and other competitors, a gap now magnified by global changes. In the past, high resource prices and easy U.S. access masked this weakness. Now, with protectionism rising, Canada must generate wealth from within. Insufficient investment in technology and a lack of competitive pressure have bred complacency. Without a productivity boost, wages will stagnate, and social programs will suffer. The government's warnings are about long-term consequences, not just a recession. Canada must urgently innovate and compete to secure its future. Canada's pivot can't be understood without recognizing the collapse of the old world order. For decades, global trade was governed by U.S.-led rules and institutions, creating stability for smaller nations like Canada. That era is over, replaced by great power competition and economic nationalism. The U.S., once the system's architect, now uses tariffs and protectionism as policy tools. China's rise and the paralysis of the WTO have further destabilized the system. For Canada, this is an existential crisis. Its reliance on the U.S. is now a vulnerability. The assumption of a stable, rules-based environment has vanished. Canada must now navigate a world of geopolitical blocs and strategic rivalries. The push for diversification is a response to this new, chaotic reality. In this fractured world, Canada is urgently rewiring its economic relationships. Diversification is now a national security imperative. The government is aggressively pursuing new trade and investment partners worldwide. Canada has championed multilateral trade deals like the CPTPP and the EU agreement, building new economic bridges. A dedicated Indo-Pacific strategy aims to deepen ties with fast-growing Asian markets. The goal: a portfolio of partnerships to reduce vulnerability to any single market. This pivot is about more than new customers. It's about economic sovereignty. By diversifying supply chains and exports, Canada gains policy flexibility and independence. The gamble trades some comfort for resilience and autonomy in a competitive world. It's a bold, necessary wager on Canada's future. What stands out in Canada's new direction is its tone of sober realism. Leaders are preparing citizens for a tough transition, abandoning the language of boundless optimism. By being upfront about slower growth and the end of the old model, the government seeks national consensus for transformation. This honesty is meant to foster resilience and shared purpose. Canada's strategy of radical diversification and candid messaging could become a template for other nations. By acting decisively, Canada positions itself as a leader among countries seeking open trade and cooperation. This isn't about abandoning prosperity, but rejecting an outdated model. The path forward requires deliberate action, strategic diversification, and a clear-eyed view of reality. Canada isn't giving up on ambition. It's recalibrating how to achieve it. The era of pretending the old system works is over. The hard work of building a new one has begun.